Stop signs save lives. It's a proven fact. If you didn't have a stop sign, people would just, go at their own risk.
Okay,
Those
so
are rules.
criminalizing drugs saves lives.
You're not even listening to me. You're the one with the straw man.
Ask me a question.
You're a straw man.
To see whether or not I listen to you. Ask me any question.
You're the straw man. Okay?
Now, you use the straw man that because people who advocate criminalizing drugs, they expect, therefore, they'll be 100% successful in criminalizing drugs. That's a straw man argument. Nobody who advocates criminalizing drugs expects the law to be 100% successful.
No, you're a straw man because I already explained to you that you can't compare traffic laws, which are designed to keep people from safety from your neighbor so that we can all share the common ground and intersect each other without killing each other, with me going down to the market and buying drugs and smoking them in my own house, which has nothing to do with you. Those are not two things that are even remotely related, and stop using them together. It's pissing me off. Next.
So do you think there'd be more or less drug use if drug use was made legal?
If it was made legal?
Yeah.
I think it would be negligible, the difference.
Negligible. Okay, so we should be able to empirically test this. Like, this doesn't have to be a matter of emotion and philosophy. It should be empirically testable. We should have societies that have decriminalized drugs.
You've already done it. We had the prohibition and it was proven to be a failure. What more proof do you need?
Okay, so we can test prohibition. We can see what happened when we prohibited alcohol. We know that rates of domestic violence went down considerably.
Who says that?
Those are just statistics you can Google.
Okay,
we know that various forms of crime went down considerably when alcohol was made illegal because
we
there
know
was
that
less drunkenness.
We know that certain crimes went on the increase, like Al Capone firing missiles, firing bullets into crowds of people and killing hundreds of people.
So we can test it. We can look at what happened. We can look at the statistics and we can see, was there more domestic violence or was there less? Was there more murder in society? Was there less? Was there more criminal violence or was there less? It's not a matter of emotion. It's just a matter of statistics.
All right, you bring me the statistics. You actually bring the statistics because a lot of the statistics that you claim exist don't exist. So you.
What, you don't think there were statistics for murder back when there was prohibition?
No, I don't necessarily believe just for the fact that you are saying it that it's true. I want you to bring it in black and white.
All I claim was that there are statistics for
and
this.
you claim there are, so bring them.
You don't think there are statistics for this?
Look, maybe you've over the course.
You don't think there are statistics for this?
There might be, but I don't believe just because you say there are that there are.
You don't think there are murder statistics from 1927?
I'm sure there are murder statistics.
Okay, so we can test this.
Okay, so bring it.
I didn't say what the statistics showed.
You claim that the statistics are in your favor. I don't
said we can test it.
Okay,
so we can test it.
Okay, let's.
So this isn't a matter of emotion and like raising your voice and screaming about this or that. This is a matter of mathematics.
You don't have to raise your voice. You just have to talk calmly and be wrong, and just go on and don't listen to the person next to you talking, and just keep coming back with the same straw man
Okay, you
arguments.
accused me of not listening, so ask me a question about anything you've said and see if I can repeat back to you what you said.
You already repeated back. You repeated back your thing about trying to compare it to traffic signs after I already showed
what you said. After I'm not listening.
After I already showed, you proved that you weren't listening because after I already explained that the two things are apples and oranges, you came back again and said the same thing.
So which societies that have decriminalized drugs would you say we should emulate? Could you listen to me?
No, demedics. But statistics, Luke, need to be context to the time as well. You can't just pull up statistics. It doesn't work like that. You need to know how to interpret that stuff.
Of course. So which society should we emulate that decriminalize drugs?
That decriminalize drugs?
Yeah.
I'm not sure who's done it to emulate. We can be at the cutting edge. We can decriminalize drugs across the board, right? Wipe out the whole Mexican, Colombian, and all these cartels, and all the dangerous grip that they have, and all the terrible things that they do, and all the crime that they create, and all the people who are hurt and murdered. We can stop all that but you know how many police officers get murdered in Mexico? They walked off the force in Mexico. In one town in Mexico, all the police quit because all the cops who were doing their job to enforce a drug traffic trade, you know what happened to them? They got murdered by the cartel. Okay? How do you prevent all these cops from being murdered? Legalize drugs. So easy. But somebody like Levy doesn't want that because, God forbid, your next door neighbor should have a good time on some meth. Go ahead.
So I know that Holland has done experiments with decriminalizing a certain amount of drug use. So we can see statistically what are the results. Was there an increase in heroin use if they decriminalize heroin? Or, I mean, societies have experimented with this. I'm not for doing radical social engineering. If no society has decriminalized like all hard drugs, then that would give me considerable pause. I would rather like study what has been the effect decriminalizing drugs on those societies that have done it. I'm sure there are societies that decriminalize certain drugs.
Yeah.
And for instance, many drugs in this country were legal until the 1960s or 70s.
Cocaine.
So yeah, so what was the effect once you criminalize this drug? So you criminalize it 1 year, criminalization has to come into effect. So what was the result of that? What was, you know...
I'll tell you what the result of it. By criminalizing cocaine, we have created a monster in Colombia, a cartel that runs that country, murders anybody who gets in their way, whether it happened in Colombia, on its way up to the United States, or in our borders. Okay? The fact, you don't have to, anyone just picks up a newspaper, reads about the cops who got walked off the job in Mexico. Google it, folks. Just happened like a week ago or two, maybe 2 weeks ago. The entire police force walked off the job. They said, we quit because we don't want to get murdered by the fucking cartel. Okay? How do you stop that? You don't beat the cartel by building up your law enforcement officers and let's have a shootout with them. Legalize drugs. You end them. They're done. They have nothing to do for you because Pfizer wins. No guns. That's how you win a war non-violently. Legalize it. Pfizer wins. Empty out the prisons. Why do we have to pay to put people away in cages, pay for them every single day? Most of these people in prison never hurt anybody. They just taken drugs. Go ahead.
So I would expect that the percentage of the population that would try hard drugs would increase dramatically if they were made illegal. But I'd want to know what the statistics are. Like, I know that Holland and Britain have experimented with semi-legalization of small amounts of things like drugs like heroin. But I would expect that the rate would dramatically increase. But if the statistics show there's a negligible increase in the percentage of the population that tries hard drugs, then I would have considerably less opposition, probably no opposition. I would have no opposition to legalizing drugs if the percentage of the population that tries drugs does not dramatically increase with legalization.
Then
So
why
to
don't
me,
you?
it's an empirical
Why
matter.
don't you? It is empirical. It's very simple. Why can't you just look at the prohibition and see that we made it illegal? It didn't work. People, just as many people still wanted drinks, but what did they do? They had to buy it from Al Capone. So instead of putting the power in companies like Anheuser-Busch or whatever, some bourbon company, whatever, Seagram's, instead of putting the power in them, we put it in some gangsters who kill people. Why do you want to go that direction? It didn't stop anyone from drinking. Why do you think we repealed the prohibition? Okay, we tried something, it failed, we learned our lesson. Okay, we learned our lesson. To repeat the bad lessons and not learn them, to not learn from history and repeat history, it's unacceptable and inexcusable, especially when people's lives are at stake and people are getting murdered worldwide because of the illegal drug trade. Go ahead.
Well, people's lives are at stake when they're throwing them away on drugs.
That's true, but two things. One, you're doing it to themselves, and I don't believe that we should legislate what you do to yourself. That's number one. And number two, whereas if I murder somebody, that's completely different than if I take my own life. That a society needs a set of laws and regulations to protect me from doing that to somebody else. But you don't need to protect me from going against myself. Number two, right? Yes, drugs could do something against it, but aren't you the one who always says we should not be a nanny state and people need to buck up and take care of themselves and be responsible for themselves?
Yeah, I think people need to be responsible for themselves, but I also think the society should put up bulwarks to encourage people not